Think I'm losing my mind. This is our wish list for the upcoming, hopefully, Mavic 3, and we've divided this into two parts. 7 specs that we wish that are included, and 3 that are either included or I'm just not buying the Mavic 3. Let's go. First, a bigger image sensor. Now that the DJI Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor, you know it, right? A 1-inch sensor on a Mavic 3 would be just disappointing. I've been reading rumors about a Micro Four Third image sensor, which would be kind of okay. We would be happy with that, right? Remember that the X5S that we did review a few years ago of the Inspire 2 had already that image sensor, so that would be nothing really new for DJI. Now, the real challenge here for DJI will be to include that bigger image sensor with all the, components and heating and everything that it needs into a tiny or smaller gimbal. And also the rumors have been saying that the Mavic 3 will be kind of smaller than the Mavic 2 Pro. So that's a real challenge out there on how are they supposed to fit that into a smaller gimbal. And of course, if you remember, the X7 that we did review also here had a super 35mm. Now, when you're talking about a prosumer drone, we're expecting at least a Micro Four Third, but a super 35mm would be also really awesome. Now, if you remember, the X7 was something like this big, and I don't think that they can fit. Well, of course the lens was the biggest thing, but I don't think they can fit that into a smaller gimbal, like for example the Mavic 3. Second, with a larger sensor, of course we and people are going to be expecting more resolution. Now, the Air 2S is already shooting in 5.4K, so the next step, at least, that we're expecting is of course the Mavic 3 being able to shoot in 6K. Now, 8K would be also nice. Now, the X7 was capable of shooting in 6K 30, but that's a whole different topic because they needed extra SSDs. Do you remember those extra flash cards and everything? You needed some specific hardware for reading. It was kind of crazy. So I don't really need that 8K right now. A good, decent, well-developed and well-made 6K would be more than enough for me. And of course it should always include the 4K 60 at least, because, even if the Air 2S is capable of doing that, maybe we can even expect a little bit higher than 4K 60, I don't know, but I don't think so. Third, and what I've always been saying in this channel that for me is the most underrated product by DJI, is the DJI Smart Controller. Look at this. This is, it's a little bit, full of fingers, but this is for me the most underrated product. And why? Because this changes the whole game if you do own it. Now, I've seen brands such as Autel now releasing their own smart controllers, but the problem of these controllers are that they are too expensive. And when you're, for example, purchasing an Air 2S for $1,000 or $1,300 with a combo, spending $600 or $700 or $750 more on a smart controller can be kind of crazy. And Autel's controller is priced at $1,200, which is insane. And I want you to remember for this third point, guys, the Phantom 4 Pro came in 2 combos or 2 different bundles. One was the normal, the regular one, and the other one was the Plus. Yeah, that Plus, the controller had a screen. We did review it here, and it was just great. I was super in love with that. First, because the display was much brighter, so you didn't have any problem in the sun. You could wear sunglasses like myself, always outdoors, and still see the screen. There was no problem at all. And of course, you didn't have to use your phone, which is always good, because I don't like having my phone connected to the drone. Now, this is my guess, guys. If they would release a Mavic 3 bundle or a controller with a screen, with a built-in screen, that would be just a hit. And of course, don't price it higher, just maybe a couple $100 so that you have like a small tablet, like a small screen on your controller. That would be really probably the biggest point for me. Fourth, a kind of FPV mode. Now, after the DJI FPV drone that I have back there, people are expecting, and they've been trying, I've seen on YouTube, people trying that FPV mode on the Air 2S. And up to the Air 2S, the other drones that had that FPV mode, they just sucked. It was terrible. It was not even close to an FPV feeling when flying. The Air 2S, I've seen videos, I've seen people kind of, doing that cruising up and down and to the right and left, which was kind of okay, but I still believe that DJI can develop there a lot, and that the Mavic 3 would be able to do something like that would be really, really great. Fifth, now that the Phantom 4 or the Phantom has completely vanished, and I don't see any news on that, and I don't even think that this is happening ever again, the Mavic becomes the Pro line, or the Pro, in the consumer market, becomes the top product. So it should deliver also Pro Video, Pro Photography, and for that you need to include a few things that the Mavic 2 Pro and other drones until now from DJI did not have. And now I'm talking specifically about Pro Video codecs. And with an enhanced image sensor and more resolution and maybe 10-bit and all that, I could at least expect also, for example, an Apple ProRes 422. Remember that the Inspire 2 with the X7 was capable of doing that, and it would be really nice to have that option on your Mavic 3. Now, we don't need that much, and you know, the Inspire had tons of different codecs, and you had Cinema DNG, Apple Pro RAW and all that. You don't need that much, but at least one of those video codecs included in the Mavic 3 would be just insane. For those of you who don't understand really what I'm talking about, don't panic, it's not too complicated, and I don't want to get into many details here, but you have been probably shooting until now in H.264 or H.265, which are kind of okay, but they have a real big problem, especially the H.265, which is a codec that you really need in order to shoot in 10-bit, but the problem is it is too compressed and it demands a lot of CPU and GPU when editing, so it can be kind of a pain if you don't have a NASA computer. Now, 6. Now guys, I'm really dreaming, that's my dream, but if some of you have the Canon EOS R, you know that that camera has a built-in ND filter. Now, it would be amazing to have something like that on a drone. I don't really know if it's physically possible, or if any brand has even thought about this at all, but it would be amazing to be able to change and to play around with that ND filter from your controller and having it included in the lens or in the gimbal in this case, without having to, you know, clack, take it out, put a newer one, change, you know, that would be amazing. You all know, guys, by now, if you've been following my channel, that you do need ND filters in order to shoot at least somehow close to cinematics, so that would be a nice option. DJI, I'm kind of creative. If you need any other creative ideas, just talk to me. 7th, I've been talking a lot about video, but I also want to talk a little bit about photography. And what I do believe would be the most amazing would to have a mechanical shutter on the Mavic 3. Now, hold on, because here's a lot of confusion about this thing. The Phantom 4 Pro V2 had a mechanical shutter, but it was only working in the photo mode. In the video mode, you still got the rolling shutter effect. So it was really turned off. Now, doing a hybrid or a kind of shutter that would work on both would be a little bit, I think, and presumed too expensive, so I don't expect a Mavic 3 to have one of those mechanical shutters for both video and image. But you at this point know the benefits of having a mechanical shutter, at least for photography, right? It would be much more detail specific, and all for those old people doing photogrammetry, thermal imaging and all that, it would be much better. So my guess is it should have a mechanical shutter. And finally, I do have 3 things that I really expect that the Mavic 3 has, or I'm just, as I told you, not buying this thing because it wouldn't make much sense, right? First of all, the camera developed by Hasselblad. I do believe that as DJI did acquire Hasselblad a few years ago, I don't think that they should let that die. And the Mavic 3, unless they want to do something with the Inspire, that they will probably do at some point, but the Mavic 3 has still to be that Pro King category, and the camera has to be included, and we know all the benefits of this and the privileges, the color science, the development, everything is much better on that camera, for example comparing it to the Air 2S camera. Second would be the variable aperture. This is a must, and I don't think that the Mavic 3 should not have this, basically because it helps you a lot. It allows you to play with the settings the way you want, much easier to have those thumb rules with 25p 550 shutter and or 60 120, and it must be there. Oh, and of course I finally expect an enhanced OcuSync. They've been, in the past products, they actually have been developing the OcuSync, so it's pretty well now, but I still think that there's a lot of margin, that there's a lot of potential that they can do, and a much stronger and better signal on the Mavic 3 would be just insane, and I think that the Mavic 3 will have an enhanced OcuSync, honestly. Nothing really else to say, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Talking about my dreams is always nice because it's easy. I just say, here, I want to have this, and if they are good, good, and if they're not, not. The good thing is, if you come back, like after a year to this video and see what really happened, some of the things were actually made and some others weren't about my wish list. So I really want to get this video back in a year to see, or just right after the Mavic 3 launch, if it ever comes, because I've seen rumors about everything not coming this year, later this year, I don't know. I don't even know if it's in the making, probably and hopefully, but I'll be happy to be checking this in the future. Nothing really else to say, guys. Always remember to keep calm and talk UAV.